Hi, welcome to Wonderville. I'm Karen.
And I'm Danielle.
And we're your wonderful teachers, and we're so excited to talk to you about design thinking, which is our quick tips video of the day. So in a previous video that we did, we talked about design challenges in the classroom, and we just touched on the concept of design thinking, but we can talk much more about this whole process, which is iterative, it's non-linear, tremendous amount of benefits for your students to do this. So I'm going to lead you through the design thinking flowchart or process with an example that Danielle is going to share with us today.
Yep, perfect. So the design thinking process has a few stages, and like Karen said, it's iterative and it's non-linear. So you can get back to these stages at different points in the project you're working on. And so one of the stages is empathy. And in this stage, you're really focusing on your user's needs and who your user is. So you're looking at the research and you're really putting yourself in the perspective of what your user or what your solution is going to be solving. And then your next stage is define. So this is where you're really looking at your challenge and you're going to create your how might we question. So for example, in our empathy stage, my class realized that there's a lot of need for animal space in the city and having a protective space. So when we realized that this was an issue we felt strongly about, we wanted to define that a little bit better. And the first step is to focus on that challenge. So we came up with the how might we question of how might we create spaces for the existence of local species and plants and animals in our urban community. So that kind of defined what we were going to work on and led us into our ideate stage. And this stage, we brainstormed ideas for the solution. Some of those examples being we would build a rooftop park on one of the buildings in the city. We would use recycled materials and outfit a more rundown building and kind of rebuild it up with ecosystems that animals could come to, fly into, and hang out at pretty much. And
so
have
this is the stage where the ideas actually came into play.
Yeah, it's where we brainstormed those great ideas to solve our challenge. And so then from that stage, we went into prototyping. So I had my students build a prototype of a rooftop garden. They built a prototype of the building that would host ecosystems for local animals. And again, like this stage was quick. They built these prototypes in 10 minutes and they were all throwaways. Like they were easily put together and easily could move on to the next idea.
What sort of materials did your students use to build these prototypes?
So some were just drawing it, some used Play-Doh, and then any type of loose materials that we had, like paper bags or straws or string, anything that's typical classroom materials.
So these don't have to be out of the box materials.
No.
They can be everyday things.
Exactly. During that process even, they gained so many insights already and realizing that, well, maybe this idea is missing something or it needs like a little tweak here or there. And so before we even were able to test it, those insights were coming in, and it was really awesome to see the students recognize that, hey, maybe on a rooftop park garden, there would be issues with drainage, and how do you have to deal with that? Like, how do you have to think about that in your design? Mm-hmm. So it was really cool. And then, of course, they went out and they would test their designs and see how the elements affected it, see how it actually worked in real life, and use that feedback and those insights to be iterative and go through the whole process. So yeah, it was awesome to see them really grow in that process.
I think that's the whole concept of a prototype, is that students learn that they have to go back and redesign. It doesn't have to be perfect in the beginning.
Yeah.
And it never will be perfect in the beginning.
Exactly, and that iterative process really helps build those skills and develop those ideas better.
Perfect. So there are so many inherent benefits for your students if you allow the space to hold a design thinking type of activity, whether that's a design challenge or just a simple question. So for example, students have the opportunity to be creative and innovative. These are things that we need our students to be in the 21st century. It shows them that there can be more than one solution, right? So it gets them brainstorming, problem solving. They're using their critical thinking skills. They're also having to rely on their communication and collaboration skills. So all of these competencies that we're assessing for in our students are hit upon with essentially one design thinking exercise.
Definitely.
And finally, with the whole talk about prototyping and testing and reiterating, they're learning that it's not necessarily failure if something doesn't work out if they can go back and redesign, which really fosters that growth mindset.
Of course.
That we,
which is
talk
so
about all the
important.
time.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Now we want you to try it in your classroom. Take a project and try to have your students go through this design thinking process and see how it changes their perspective on solving these issues. For other resources, check out our Wonderville page, and we also have a design thinking toolkit that's awesome and would totally help you in this process.
And have fun with it.
Yeah, exactly. So thanks for joining us. That's all for today. I'm Danielle.
I'm Karen.
And until next time,
We're your Wonderville teachers.